If you've been following the headlines, then you've obviously had the statement that was said by the President of the Republic of Zimbabwe, Dr. Emmerson Mnangagwa, that we are going to get to a phase where we shall be solely trading in the Zimbabwean currency, that is the Zim dollar, without the use of any of these foreign currencies. And it's going to be an exclusive arrangement. I'm talking no pula, no rands, no USD, no British pound, no whatnot. It's going to be the Zimbabwean dollar only. And I hope I'm not sending shivers down your spine. We're going to look into the preparedness of Zimbabwe as a nation to adopting this phase of our economic growth where we shall be trading in our own currency, as it is underlined that no country has developed significantly using another country's currency. This is The World of Business, and my name is Steve. This is your program where we talk about business headlines that are trending. We also give you latest updates on the stock markets, and we also use this platform to give a spotlight to the entrepreneurs who are shaping the economic landscape of Zimbabwe as a country. We're going to delve more into the story to do with the sole use of the Zimbabwean dollar as a medium of exchange for all local currency in the second segment. But for now, let's take a look at the exchange rates as they are today.
Exchange rates as of Wednesday, 25 October, were the Zimbabwe dollar to the USD interbank rate was at $5,693.78. The Zimbabwe dollar to the Great Britain pound interbank rate was at $6,930.53. The Zimbabwe dollar to the euro interbank rate was at $6,036.04. The Zimbabwe dollar to the South African rand interbank rate was at $0.0033. The Zimbabwe dollar to the Botswana pula interbank rate was at $414.80.
We also give you commodity prices as they are on the global exchange.
Commodity prices as of Wednesday afternoon were: gold per ounce traded at $1,383.60 after it went down by 0.13 percentage points. Silver per ounce traded at $23.01 after it went down by 0.46 percentage points. Copper per pound traded at $362.40 after it went down by 0.01 percentage points. Platinum per ounce traded at $885.46 after it went down by 0.55 percentage points.
That's all we had for you in the first segment of The World of Business. Do join me in the second segment where we are going to be looking at the preparedness of Zimbabwe as a nation to get into that phase where we shall exclusively trade in the Zimbabwean dollar. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome back to the second segment of The World of Business. My name is Steve Tadzoka, and as said earlier on, the President of the Republic of Zimbabwe, Dr. Emmerson Mnangagwa, in a statement said that we are going to get to a phase where we shall exclusively trade in our local currency, that is the Zimbabwean dollar, as he said that no country has developed significantly using a foreign currency. And of course, to help me unpack the preparedness of Zimbabwe to move from dollarization to de-dollarization and the sole use of the Zimbabwean dollar as a medium of exchange is economist Tinotenda Kashamba. Hello and welcome to The World of Business.
Hi Steve, and hello viewers. Thanks for having me today.
Absolutely, it's a pleasure. Now, to kickstart the conversation, the President is the one who gave that statement to say we're going to get to a phase where we shall exclusively trade in the Zimbabwean dollar without any other aid of any currency. Are we in place? Do we have the sustainable measures in place as a country to ditch any other country and stick to the Zimbabwean dollar?
Well, I think anything is a phased approach. It doesn't matter what segment or what sector you're looking at. Most things have to be done, implemented in a phase-by-phase manner. I think we've come a long way through the different stages of the economy. We're now about to move on from NDS 1 to NDS 2, which will stretch till 2030. We've seen a lot of mechanization, mechanisms being put in place. We've seen our reserves being pumped up by the Reserve Bank and royalties being paid in commodities. So those type of reserves will help us get to a position where we will be able to back up our own currency with our own minerals.
And interesting that you mentioned a lot of things that have happened. I would like to take you back to the statements that have been released so far by the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe. There are so many in a short space of time. It's like they're doing corrective economics to correct things as they go. Would you say that would bring confidence out to the people when we have a Reserve Bank that is trailing behind the market with policy, trying to control how the market goes?
Well, you have a very tricky market that is always changing on a daily basis. I'll give an example. I know for a fact that every Monday, the street rate will be adjusted by some guys sitting around in a room. So it's very difficult for a policymaker to keep up with such behavior that you'd be seeing from some unscrupulous people out there. So yes, of course, we wouldn't like to have a situation where policy is always changing rapidly, but I think it's in preparation for a stable time. I mean, they've brought in, as we discussed last week, ZIG, so I think all of this is to prepare us into where we're going into the future with the Zimbabwean currency.
And of course, there's a significant group of people who have contributed significantly into the rebuilding of Zimbabwe. That is foreign direct investment that is injected by long-term investors. I can imagine this came in as a shock to realize that by 2025, there won't be the use of the USD anymore. And what does that entail for our long-term investors? What does it mean in terms of their risk profile in investing in Zimbabwe?
Steve, when you go to South Africa at OR Tambo, you hand them over your US dollars and they give you rands, which you then go into Pick and Pay and use. You don't go to Pick and Pay and use US dollars. So when you're leaving, again, what do? You go to the airport, give them back their rands, they give you US dollars. Why can't we treat that the same way that we do with FDI? I think we need to look at that and not fear the new currency coming in, as long as the measures are in place to make sure that something is backing up the currency and it is free-flowing and there's fundamentals behind that. I don't think we have much to worry about.
You think so? And I'm looking at the banking sector. The banking sector is quite interesting because they've slowed down the lending of USDs to the market.
Yep.
In fact, they've barred the long-term borrowing of USDs because they say the future is uncertain. And the people who have gotten the most hit, it's the productive sector that requires a foreign currency to purchase raw materials to continue productivity. In light of the target that we have to become an upper middle income economy, do you think it's going to be possible when what's in place is really stifling the businesses that will take us there?
I think we are looking at a lot of these things from the wrong angle. And we need to look at this. What comes first? Is it the chicken or the egg? Mm-hmm. So for us to be able to produce more, which is what we want as a country, we need to be competitive. For us to be competitive, we need our own currency. So if we then become competitive, we export more because our costs are less. If we export more, we earn more foreign currency. Mm-hmm. But here's the problem. We've got manufacturers who are basing the short-term view on the US dollar because they're importing in an environment that has very little US dollars. But if we bring in our currency and we bring down their cost of production, they'll export more and the US dollars will be more awash.
Very interesting. And of course, in light of the statement that was said by the president himself, Dr. Emmerson Mnangagwa, he highlighted that no country has significantly developed using another country's currency, and he's right for that. And do you have any specific advantages that you can cite that relate to that statement to say we need our own currency for us to develop further?
I think we already have examples. Harare Bay Bridge is a clear example of you can do infrastructure projects with your own currency. The problem is that we have this mixed use, and contractors would then go and dump their local currency in exchange for US dollars. If we have a monocurrency, we completely get rid of that. But if you look at any country in the world, look at China, how it became such a powerhouse using its own currency. When things got tough, they would just do infrastructure projects internally, and that will bring up the economy, and they export more. Right now, I don't need to tell you how many Chinese products we have all over the world.
A lot of them.
Exactly. And that's because they've just priced themselves well. South Africa as well have priced themselves well. The problem that we have, if we have US dollar economy, we're having an issue where we become the dumping ground of other countries. You'll find right now, if you go into the shops or even the tuck shops that we're talking about, most of those products are South African or they're imported from Zambia, right? It's because they've got also a much lower cost of production, not forgetting that no tax is being paid on that as well. So it really kills our manufacturing sector. So we need to actually address it, and I think that's what His Excellency was trying to do.
All right. And, you know, I was doing a quick internet search to look for the exchange rate between the USD to the Rand, to the Botswanan Pula, and it's readily available, crunched by huge huge financial institutions that are global. But if you try to look up the exchange rate between the USD and the Zimbabwean dollar, it's almost non-existent. And the sole reason that I could pin it to is that there's been rumors of the manipulation of the actual inflation of the currency. What's your take on that?
Well, I think we would have to ask the authorities on that one. But, you know, Zimbabwe, unfortunately, we suffer from an array of issues which are all historical. And with that, with us being on sanctions and being annexed from the mainstream world, we also have our own currency issues, which we're about to stabilize, hopefully. So there's a lot of other things that come to play in why, I mean, surely we have an exchange rate. It's published every Tuesday. There's no reason why it shouldn't be on xe.com.
Very interesting. And maybe as we wrap up the conversation, I'm looking into the RBZ as the regulator. I'm sure they've got fundis and professors who are working day and night to ensure the seamless merge into a future where we use the Zimbabwean dollar as the sole currency for settling transactions. But in terms of the market, there's very little preparation. What, in your opinion, as an economist, does the market need to do in order not to sabotage its own country?
It's one thing and one word, confidence. If we can demonstrate confidence, and then everything else will move. So we want to see policy that will instill confidence. We want to see regulations that will instill confidence. Otherwise, our local currency will fall flat on its face if the market is not willing and able to receive it.
Thank you so much for those sentiments, and thank you for coming through to the world of business.
Thank you, Steve.
Absolutely. Right, ladies and gentlemen, you heard it. We may not be prepared now to adopt the Zimbabwean dollar as the sole currency for exchange, but if we play our cards right, and especially if we demonstrate a good level of confidence, we may not sabotage our own currency, and we may end up having a currency that is strong regionally and internationally and desirable as a medium of exchange by other countries. And with that, that wraps up this second segment of the World of Business. Do join me in the third segment where we give you the entrepreneur for the week. But for now, let's take a short break. Welcome to the third and final segment of the World of Business, where we give you the entrepreneur for the week. Now, for this week, the team for the World of Business spoke to Mr. Gary Ruona, a vibrant and youthful entrepreneur owning one of Zimbabwe's biggest online shops that connects sellers to buyers and also leading in the digital construction strategies. Let us hear more from Sela Marere as she speaks to Mr. Gary Ruona.
Increasing investments in digital technologies is driving Zimbabwe's momentum towards achieving an empowered and prosperous upper middle income economy by 2030. It is in this regard that we're joined here today by Mr. Ruona, who has adopted these technologies in transforming the e-commerce landscape and digitalizing the construction industry through various exhibitions. He's going to tell us more about this in this episode. What was the motivation behind tapping into the technology industry? What is it that really motivated you to want to do business the technological way?
You see that Africa and even our local businesses in Zimbabwe are failing to grow because of many middlemen within any sell or any buy that's happening. By decentralizing everything into an open channel digital marketplace. So we simply say, instead of you using a runner or making a purchase for a company, making a purchase, wanting to make a purchase in China, happens to travel, and that was post-COVID that led to such innovation, whereby you have to travel and there's so many traveling restrictions. We have provided a marketplace whereby you simply have to be there, and once you're there, you can be able to make a B2B transaction and payments can be done, logistics can be done.
So, Mr. Ruona, earlier on you mentioned that you ventured into this particular field because you wanted to change the way of doing business and the way of seeing things and business in Zimbabwe. How have you digitalized the construction industry?
So what we're doing in terms of construction, in terms of the construction of the exhibition stands, we're trying to use innovative ways that are cost effective, at the same time durable when it comes to the events. So we are providing, for instance, one of also the measures in terms of introducing double stories when it comes to events, when it comes to exhibitions, and even the way we do lay out our 3Ds. We lay out our projects, how we do it. We're making use of wood, making use of steel in a light type way as we build something. If you look at the countries like United States, they're no longer even using the bricks in terms of construction, but they're using, wood and so forth. So that's what we further on looking into, and we're trying to use very innovative ways that other countries are doing in order for us, to have the best of the best of the world class in terms of events and expos.
From what you have said, you're actually saying that Zimbabwe before technology and Zimbabwe after technology, these are two different worlds. What is the revolution? What is the change, and what are some of the benefits of embracing technology in our way of doing business?
All right, the improvement is that, number one, when it comes to technology, I would say the improvement is that it's being embraced slowly but sure. You'd see that way back when it comes to events, people would simply say that we're having a certain type of an event, and from that certain type of an event, you could just simply say, I want this and that to be on the stand. But now we can pre-show the exhibition. We can use VR, which is visual reality or augmented reality, to show how the event is gonna be before even on the event. And we try to bring in technology whereby someone who's not present again on the event can be able to be within the event, that is being streamed online. Again, that also then corresponds again. That event can also be streamlined within that platform. So we are just trying to seamlessly integrate all the companies, like especially the event company and the technology company, so that we can create something.
Mr. Ruona, as we move towards a more technologically driven economy and society, we have noticed that it's taking time for most of us to embrace technology in the way we are doing business. People are very skeptical and people are very slow to adoption. What is it that you'd like to tell the citizens of Zimbabwe and the policymakers as well in terms of implementing technology and also adoption, rate of adoption as a whole?
I think when it comes to technology, in my view, of course, there are always challenges. Even in developed countries, there are always challenges. But one of the best things that can be happening with, it's having access to internet. Because one of the problems is access to internet. There's less access to research. And if you look into this world, into this modern world now, presently, AI, it's at the helm, it's at the throne of it. So you see the government, when it comes to the government and the policymakers, they have to start also looking into those segments, because they're very important. And also saying, looking at the world-class standard, because, you know, it's like when you're doing construction and it comes to steel, there's a certain type of steel that's now trending. There's also a certain color when it comes to, you know, could it be painting, could it be housing? There's always a set of a set of standard that's now the world is using, which is, you know, which I would say it's now modern. So I always say to the policymakers, try to keep up with us and, you know, be modern, go digital, and make sure whatever we do is premium.
So from what we have said earlier on, we say that people actually take their time when it comes to adopting technology. We've seen that some people are very skeptical when it comes to these issues. But some might argue that it's because of our resources as a nation. We are lacking, we are ill-equipped, we are ill-resourced. Therefore, I cannot afford the internet, and maybe the next person cannot afford. What's your comment with regards to that?
You know, as long there is a try, it wasn't like this 5 years ago, 10 years ago. But as we're moving on, certain people are embracing. And, you know, with the Vision 2030 that says Zimbabwe should become a middle class, it simply means that if we move with everything to the world standards, that's creating middle class. So, you know, we as the nations, as the citizens, we also have to brace, you know, and move on with the, you know, with what's the vision that's there of becoming a middle class. It's good for everyone. It's good for the economy. It's good for the national development. You know, in a virtual reality whereby people are able now to manner or see things just simply by putting the glasses and so forth. So it also proves that the government and the entities within the government, they are also into it, because these are becoming special request orders. People are making use of holograms, which is 3D, 4D illustration. So these are the kind of things, you know, that shows that Zimbabwe it's ahead and out.
So under the National Development Strategy 1, there is a pillar that places emphasis on value addition and also generating a knowledge-driven economy. So these are some of the key pillars that we have under the National Development Strategy 1. Looking at your businesses and what you've been doing so far from the time that you started until now, looking at the impact, looking at the effects, the possible, the definite impacts that you are seeing from what you've been doing so far. How can you say you're speaking to the element of value addition in Zimbabwe?
So when it comes to the value addition, I have two aspects, the event and the exhibition company, and then I have the e-commerce, e-marketplace company. So I'll start with the e-marketplace company. So on the e-marketplace company, in short, we're having listings, which is companies and suppliers that are profiling themselves and are able to sell their products within other countries, within Africa, within Southern Africa. For instance, we have companies that are buying sold from Botswana and companies in Botswana that are buying leather products from Zimbabwe. And our platform is doing that exchange of information and making sure that the transaction is. So these are successful stories that we can tell as a company.
Employment creation being one of the aspects that you're touching on as a business, what's your staff complement? Looking at those that you're working with directly and those that you're working with indirectly as well at the moment.
So at the moment, directly and indirectly, we're working with around 42. Those are the people that we're working with that works on different types of projects depending on the type of project that we're working.
Mr. Ruona, it has been such an enriching conversation that we have had with you today. And as a youthful entrepreneur, I must say it's very inspiring for the other youths that are watching you right now. And is your last words to those people that are watching you, that are motivated by your works, and those that have gotten to learn about you today, what is it that you'd like to tell them at this point?
I always say, people, they say you need to know someone in order to be somewhere. I knew no one. I'm not yet there, but I believe I'm on my way there. So I always say, don't give up. Learn to do things that are beyond the obvious. As long as you are young, the only person that I'm scared of when it comes to competition, I'm scared of young people.
Mr. Rona, thank you so much for gracing us with the opportunity to learn and take some nuggets from what you've been doing, and also for us to be able to use that knowledge to better our situation in Zimbabwe. Thank you so much for joining us today.
You're welcome. Thank you as well for the opportunity to let me share the piece of me in my humbleness. Thank you very much.
Technology is definitely the future of Zimbabwe and the future of the global village as a whole. It is very important and it is very pertinent for citizens of Zimbabwe and for the youth especially, as they are the torch bearers of the future of Zimbabwe. And that brings us to an end to this week's segment of our Entrepreneur of the Week. Be sure to join us again next week. It's now back to the studio.
That was the third and final segment of the World of Business that brought into the spotlight that embracing technology in business is a key factor in Zimbabwe achieving an upper middle income economy by 2030. And that brings us to the end of this edition of the World of Business. Do join me next week, same time, same place. I've been Steve Tadzoka. Enjoy the rest of your viewing.